Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Luella. For those of you who've never seen me before, I talk about a lot of different things. It's mostly on what I'm most passionate about when it comes to life in general as a 55 plus year old woman, but mostly it's through my therapy sessions that I have. And when I see that people are struggling in certain areas of life, I just feel like it might help if I make a little video about it and help them through that. So today I want to speak to you about commitment. And I have a strong need to explain to people what it means to be, especially in a committed relationship, because I feel that a lot of people have forgotten. I mean, the amount of couples that come to see me and speak about betrayal and affairs, I just don't get it. I really don't. But I do feel part of this is probably to blame that more and more people have moved away from any sort of religion because when religion is all about commitment, and I think the lack of religion in people's lives nowadays probably has a pretty good role in why people can't stay committed. But let me get to that later because people break their commitments in so many different ways, even besides relationships. And if you're someone who has been betrayed, there's many ways that a person can feel betrayed as well. It's not only in terms of affairs. And by the way, I write about 10 different ways that people feel betrayed on my website. And that website is luellayonk.com. I'll link it in the show description. When you get to my website, you'll see that there's a knowledge center, a tab. And under that knowledge center, there's going to be another little page of resources. And I give a lot of good resources there, mostly from the Gottmans, because that's the type of couple counseling I do. They do a lot of great work. Love the Gottmans. And I think people find these resources very helpful. But on my blog, if you like what you're hearing on video, you might want to check out my blog as well, because it's full of stuff that I'm passionate about. And there are 10 different posts about betrayal. So just search that up. So, okay, back to what I want to speak to you about. I find the broader term of commitment really filters down to the of trust. Like, it's not easy for me to sit across from somebody in the room as a therapist and bring up the topic of trust and commitment in a relationship because I don't want to point out to somebody that they're untrustworthy. But if you're not committed to your relationship, you are, in fact, untrustworthy. And in this particular person that I was seeing, they weren't married. They were common law for a long time, 30 years. And this happens. My client sort of disputed that being married would have not made any difference at all in his decision, or yeah, he might not even say that it wasn't a decision, it just happened. But you made a decision in that time that it just happened. At some point you decided to betray your partner. And no one likes to even hear those words spoken out loud in front of them because it's sort of, I didn't betray my partner. Well, yeah, you did. No, but I still love my partner. But you betrayed your partner. You might still love your partner, but you betrayed your partner. But no one wants to be thought as someone who can't be trusted. I'm sure that, and I know I've been on that. I mean, not in terms of an affair in my relationship, but I've let people down. I've betrayed them in that sense. I did not commit to them in a sense under whatever topic that might be that I betrayed them on, but it doesn't feel good. It feels horrible to be thought to think of yourself like that, right? It's awful. And so if this is something that you're not practicing, I would highly suggest that you practice because it's gut-wrenching. Maybe it's just me. Maybe other people don't have a conscience and they don't care when they betray someone. But to me, the guilt and the shame is overwhelming. I can't stand it. And I think that's our moral compass that we've all been gifted with in life, thankfully, you just can't escape it. You can't escape your mind. And that's one of the reasons I find that you can't rely on your mind often. You need to rely on something higher than your mind, because your mind is very weak. And that's sort of what makes me feel it's more of a religious moral value that you need to strive towards, because often, like I said, we can't rely. Some people just can't rely on themselves. It's over and above just letting someone down, because it's more than that. Like if you let somebody down, you can potentially make it up. You can make them happy again in some way. To me, it's more about how I identify myself as a person. It relates 100% to my values and how I see myself as a person. I see myself as a wife, a friend, a mother, a Catholic. And so it really bothers me if people see me saying one thing and doing something else. I mean, it was Aristotle that quotes, virtues are formed in a man by doing the actions. In other words, we are what we repeatedly do. Therefore, excellence is not an act, but a habit. Or to make it even clearer, we could say excellent isn't about this thing you do one time. So to have someone sit across from me in a room and tell me that they love their partner but had an affair with someone else, it hurts me. Like, and believe me, I'm no saint, far from it. It's not like I'm sitting in some chair and judging them across the room. Well, we can't escape from judgment, and it's good to practice good judgment, right? I'm not speaking about that, but that is one thing I could never do, and I know that I could never cheat on my partner. And if any of you feel the same way, please let me know. That's not the type of people that I see in my office. I see people in my office that seem to have little trouble betraying their partner and having an affair. So, are you out there, people? Am I the only one that knows through hell or high water I am never going to cheat on my partner? Because I'm not. And I like to think I'm not some alien out there. But if you ask me why, I guess it's for the reasons I've already stated. I grew up in the Catholic faith, and there's some sort of structure, there's some sort of established value. And I'm not saying you need to be a Catholic, I'm not saying you need to be a Christian, but maybe you can thank your parents for establishing that same sort of template or structure within you to stay committed to whatever you signed up for. I made a commitment to my partner, 27 years ago, and that's hasn't changed. And that's through even the hardest of times, right? Like I will continue to try my very best, like we have indifferences, believe me, we have many indifferences, and it's a constant practice. But I'm going to do my best to get over those indifferences, and I suggest you doing much of the same. It's a lot of people come to me and think, oh, they need to come in because they've been having many, many arguments. It's not the number of arguments that you've had in your relationship that dictates whether it's a good or bad relationship. To me, it's the number of arguments that you haven't had. Because by avoiding arguments, and to argue is a healthy thing, okay? It's healthy. People can have very healthy arguments without being contemptuous or critical or defensive or dismissive. Like get down to the bottom of it. You have to find a resolution. You can't just let it fester and distract yourself from it and think that it's going to automatically go away. There's some resolution. Believe me. The Gottmans have a great exercise for this, by the way. It's called Dreams Within Conflict. I practice that one a lot with my clients. And I actually have it scheduled for a couple that's coming in probably next week because they've been doing really, really good. But there's one point that they're not it's not getting much better. So we need to get down and figure out what's really going on. The more you avoid conflict, the deeper it gets. Couples sometimes ask me what the difference is between living with someone, such as being in a common law commitment and getting married. What's the point of the piece of paper? It's just a piece of paper, or the fact that it makes it legal, or no, like it's about commitment. It's because you have proclaimed, potentially in front of God in a church, but certainly, probably, I like to think that you would have celebrated somehow, and you do it in front of friends. There's people that have been witnesses of your relationship. And doesn't that mean anything to you? There's a reason why when you state your vows, right? Like, I mean, words for better or for worse, for rich or poor, in sickness and in health. Doesn't that mean anything to you? Like, to me, it means hell or high water. Like, I'm going to do whatever I can to get to the bottom of this. You know, Commitment shouldn't change on the basis of your external environment. Times get hard in marriage, and all that means is that I can contend to this. It means I've fallen out of love with you in this moment, like I really have, and potentially I actually hate you right now. But like that doesn't give you grounds for that alone does not give you grounds for making this relationship like extremely fragile. That tells you I need to work even harder at this. It doesn't mean you turn your back. It doesn't mean you distract from your partner. It means you get down and you start rolling up your sleeves and you work harder at it. If you decide to comment, do not bring up physical abuse or relentless and consistent emotional abuse or affairs, like repeated affairs. These are not the relationships I'm speaking about. I'm talking about relationships that perhaps are not the best. They're mediocre relationships normally. I'm not talking about abusive relationships. It's not the abusive relationships that are contributing to the number of divorces. It's not the abusive relationships that end up being in my room, because those end pretty quickly, really. I'm talking about just this the fragility of relationships nowadays. And I strongly feel it's because we've forgotten what it means to be committed. Even as an employee to your employer, you've committed to this job. That means you don't phone in every second day saying that you're sick or you got a bit of a headache, so you're not going to show up, or you show up repeatedly late, or you slack off because it's not your company. No, you signed up for it. You committed to this to put your best effort into it. And it's no difference in relationships. It's just like owning a pet. You've committed to owning a pet. That means you care for the pet, you nurture the pet. You don't stick the pet, a big dog, in a kennel for 12 hours a day. You committed to that animal, you exercise that animal, you take care of that animal. I mean, there's so many different examples of commitment, right? But the one that I see the most, and it's the most disturbing to me, is in terms of relationships. So happy to hear what your thoughts are on this. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I really appreciate it if you did. Okay, take care. Talk to you soon.